UConn started this season with championship aspirations. The core of Paige Beckers, AZ Fudd, and Aaliyah Edwards were finally all healthy. And most crucially for the team, they were healthy all at the same time. There was anticipation in the air among UConn diehards that we would see another championship for the UConn Huskies. Fast forward to 3 weeks from the start of the season, and those championship aspirations are out the window after their game against UCLA. What's up, awesome people of the internet? Yesterday, UCLA defeated UConn 78-67. Now, this game was for sure the game of the week, and it kind of didn't live up to the hype. This was a fun game, and it was less, I would say, about the final score, but it was mainly about how the game actually flowed throughout. That should bring joy to Bruins fans and also bring dread to Huskies fans. And overall, I think this was a very good game for UCLA, who needed to bounce back after a super close win against Princeton earlier this week. They came into this game with something to prove, and they for sure proved it. This game was truly about runs, where UCLA really dominated. They owned the first quarter, starting the game off with a 10-0 start and going 5 of 7 to close out the quarter with a score of 28 UCLA, 12 UConn. In the second quarter, it seemed like UConn was finally able to get some good stops in. It felt like they were warming up into the game. They got some good stops on defense, and they were sometimes able to capitalize on the offensive end. At halftime, UConn narrowed the scoreline to just 39-34. So a really, really good second quarter for UConn, and I kind of smelled a comeback watching this game, but that comeback never actually happened, at least in the third quarter, because the momentum that UConn really had going into the half, it just evaporated in the locker room, and it was kind of over from there. Even though there was a short burst of energy from UConn in the fourth quarter, they actually outscored UCLA in the fourth quarter. It just wasn't enough, and they just didn't have enough players to score to sort of actually win this game, because UCLA came into the third quarter on a crazy run, and I believe UConn only scored 8 points in the third quarter, and it was just over. It was just over from there. UCLA is now 5-0, and they're looking like a phenomenal team, and they're led by the Big Three. I'm calling them the Big Three, even though I haven't seen anybody else call them the Big Three. But we have Kiki Rice, who was lights out, phenomenal yesterday. She finished with 24 points, 11 rebounds, and 8 assists, super close to a triple-double. And I'm sure some of her teammates who caught some of her passes and missed were like, dang it, we could have got Kiki a triple-double. But very, very nice play by Kiki Rice yesterday. It was I would say it was her best game in a long while for Kiki Rice. We also have Charisma Osborne, who drained 6 3-pointers in that game and finished with 18 points. And then we have the woman in the middle, Lauren Betts, who finished with 13 points and 7 rebounds against UConn. And now let's take a look at UConn, who once again are looking like a team that are not going to meet expectations. You have Paige Beckers, Arbor Griffin, KK Arnold, who all had very good games. Of course, Paige Beckers was the MVP of UConn, and then I thought Arbery and KK really gave some good minutes and did a pretty solid job on the offensive end. While they did well, the rest of the team was basically non-existent. You had the bench players only score 3 points in the entire game. The bench players, if you combine all of their bench production they played over 40 minutes, and they only scored three points. So very, very problematic for the UConn Huskies. And this game just exposed a lot for UConn, and so that's why I'm gonna focus the rest of this video about UConn and specifically what was exposed, what UCLA basically exposed for UConn. I will be doing a future episode specifically about UCLA and sort of breaking down sort of the talent on that team and why they've been so successful. But for the rest of this will be all about UConn. So let's get into it. So this game exposed a lot of things about UConn. So one, it exposed that injuries are a silent killer for this team, which, to be fair, some of y'all probably already thought that. You thought that before this game even happened. However, to me, this game, if you didn't think that, now you think that for sure after watching this game. UConn had 10 players available for the UCLA game because, as we know, AZ Fudd is out for the season now. Carolyn Ducharme had neck spasms, so she was out for that game. Ayanna Patterson is still on her way coming back from knee surgery in the offseason. And then we have Janet El Alfie, who is out for the season due to a injury she suffered playing with Egypt. So yes, Ducharme, out of all of them, Ducharme should be back with the team relatively soon. But this game really just showed that UConn's injury situation is putting way, way, way too much on Paige to be the end-all be-all for this team. And after the game, head coach Gino Auriemma said, "You have to perform. When you play here, you have to know you're getting other people's best shots. When you play these tournaments, you know you're going to have 2 tough games back to back. We set it like that for a reason. Unfortunately, this isn't the team I thought we'd come down here with. It puts a lot of pressure on the other players, and we've got to figure out a way to do it." And the second thing I would say that this game really exposed about UConn is the way their offense ran. It was weird. So there was a huge difference between the way UCLA's offense ran, which was very fluid and seemed very, very intentional with the passes that were being made, and even if they were missing shots, they were good shots. While UConn looked rigid, they looked clumsy, they looked lazy at times, and at times they were jacking up shots. Yes, some of this offensive flow issues have to be because Carolyn Ducharme was out. So yes, for sure, that's a thing. But I think it also just shows that, they don't have enough to win against these harder teams. And they don't have enough to really run the ball around the horn and sort of get players involved, and to not just kind of have it be the Paige Becker show of sorts. There were times where this team, they were being out rebounded, they were out hustled. So in terms of just about almost every stat, UCLA had more than UConn for assists, for rebounds, for points, of course. UCLA just outperformed UConn completely. And it's not just about shots for UConn not falling. It was just the way the game flowed. It just didn't look good. Though I will have to say that I thought Aubrey Griffin did a really good job in this game. I thought that she was one of the rare Huskies that was hustling. And she did finish the game with 11 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 steals in that game. So I thought she did well, but overall, UConn was exposed for lack of offensive creativity, I would say. Another thing that UConn was exposing is the fact that their players were not ready from the jump. And again, remember at the top when I said that this game was all about runs, it was. And UConn came out terrible in the first quarter. Horrible, like really, really bad. I can't remember the last time I saw that UConn was that bad in the first quarter, only scoring like 12 points. Like it was rough. But not only did they come out bad in the first quarter, they also came out bad in the third quarter as well. Yes, they did play better in the second and fourth, but by the time that players actually got going, they were down too much to win the game. And I think that's something that even Gino said about this team not getting going. And I think it's also due to the fact that the age difference of these players. They have a lot of underclassmen. and it's going to take some time for them to really develop more. There's some talented players on this UConn roster, and I can imagine that a year down the line, 2 years down the line, this team is way better, but they just don't have the experience to be ready from the jump, and that's something that UConn is going to struggle with for the rest of the season. You even had upperclassmen like Aubrey Griffin, who, yes, again, she had a good game, but she didn't really get going until UConn was down by a lot. And so, that's an issue. And when you have a bench that was basically non-existent, as I said, the bench players played over 40 minutes combined in this game, and they only scored 3 points. They had 2 assists and 5 rebounds amongst all the bench players. That's super problematic for this team, and it's another indication that they will not make it as far as we thought they were going to make it to start the season. And finally, I think this game exposed that UConn is just like Iowa. They are a one-player team. Paige Bueckers was the end-all be-all for UConn, and that's why they lost. She is a great player. She was phenomenal yesterday. But like Caitlin Clark with Iowa, sometimes the teams rely so much on these players that they wind up shooting shots that they shouldn't shoot, because they feel like they need to take terrible shots to get their team back in the game. Paige was 5 of 11 from three-point land. She was 9 of 23 from the field. She got to the free throw line several times, missing only 1 free throw. It wasn't her most efficient game in terms of just shooting efficiency. But I think that's because she had to do it all alone. It felt like she had to do it all alone because her teammates just weren't really stepping up. Especially teammates like Aaliyah Edwards, who really struggled yesterday. She was pretty bad. She was 2 of 12 from the field. She finished the game with 5 rebounds, 5 points, and 5 fouls. She got fouled out of this game. So for sure, this was an abnormally terrible game for Aaliyah. But if UConn wants any chance of postseason success, they need Aaliyah Edwards to step up consistently against better teams. They need players like Nika Mule to step up. They need players like Ice Brady to step up. Paige Bueckers cannot do this all alone. The more it is the Paige show, the more it's a strain on her. And remember, this girl's still coming back from injury. She spent over a year injured. And the last thing that UConn needs is to push Paige so hard that she gets injured again because she's carrying the team on her back. Like, this is unsustainable. Like, this is one of the reasons why I don't see Iowa making it crazy far this year, because that team is all about Caitlin Clark. Literally, the team lives and dies on Caitlin Clark. And even when she's like super on, that still may not be enough because her other teammates are not stepping up. That's something that this game really exposed UConn for, because going into the season, we didn't think UConn was that, because UConn had, AZ Fudd, UConn had Aaliyah Edwards, UConn had Janelle Alfie, they had Ice Brady, they had all these players who were looking like they were going to have a good year, but then, Janelle Alfie gets hurt, AZ Fudd is now out, and it's not looking that great for anybody besides Paige Bueckers for UConn. And so that's problematic. That's super problematic for this team. Let me know, y'all, what y'all think about that comparison between Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers, because I see it. I saw it yesterday for sure. And the way Paige Bueckers was playing, I saw, a player trying to put her team on her back, and it just wasn't enough. And that's what I've seen Caitlin Clark do several times for Iowa. Let me know if y'all agree with that comparison, or if y'all have any pushback to that comparison. I want to know what y'all think about that. But anyway, to wrap this video up, overall, I think that UConn they look like a shell of a team. They look very different from the team that we expected to see at the beginning of this year. And while it's probably disappointing for UConn fans to accept, just keep in mind that this team You know, even though they're not going to be as great as we thought UConn was going to be, they're still going to make it to probably the Sweet 16 or even the Elite 8. So like this team, while they're not very good against some of the better teams, the NC States of the world, the UCLAs of the world, but like overall, UConn is still better than most teams in the country. So if I'm a UConn fan, I'm probably not that, like, yes, you're probably upset that your team is not going to win the championship, but like there's a lot of other teams who would love to be in the position of UConn. So like, you know, just keep that in perspective. keep that in perspective. So those are my thoughts overall about this UConn UCLA game, and what I think this game really exposed for UConn. Let me know, guys, what you all think in the comments below. What do y'all think about my overall analysis about UConn as a team? Do you think there is hope on the other side of the season as they get towards conference play? I don't think so. I think it's a good chance that they win the Big East conference, or at least make it to that championship game. But like, I don't think they'll make it that far in the NCAA tournament. But you all let me know what you all think. I thank you all so much for watching this video. I will be back with lots more episodes talking about different teams, doing different breakdowns. And yeah, I'll be back. Until next time, guys. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed yet. I do content all about women's basketball, so if you are interested in that, please subscribe. Also, if you haven't liked this video, please like it. All right, guys, until next time. Bye.